Good morning. My name is Chris Fox. Welcome to day 2 of the 21-day novel challenge. So just a quick recap. Day 1 went great. I overshot my word goal, and I'm having a blast doing this. So we are on to day 2. Today I'm going to crank out another 5,000 words minimum. It's going to be a little bit of a different day than yesterday, only because I have more non-challenge related things that are cropping up in my life, which requires me to kind of break up my writing sprints and go talk to the real world. I think that things like that in the past have derailed me. So I would start writing on a given day and maybe get a sprint or two in, and then there'd be an interruption and I wouldn't get back to it. So this is kind of forcing me to have a little bit more discipline. It does make today more challenging, but in a way I think that's a good thing. For those that don't know much about my daily routine, what I tend to do is wake up at 5, I go to the gym for an hour to work out, and while I'm there I think about what I'm going to write, and then I generally come home and I whip out as many writing sprints as I can. So usually by, let's say, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at the latest, I've finished my daily word count and can move on to do whatever else I want to do. That's an advantage, but it also means that if something comes up that derails me, I may not get back to those words because I'm used to finishing it so early. So hopefully that isn't the case today. You'll get to see it when I report at the end of this video about how well that I did. The next segment is going to cover where the document was left off as of yesterday, and I've now sent out the Scrivener document. So those of you that have signed up to the mailing list now have access to the original and can kind of watch how I'm changing it as we go forward. So without further ado, let's take a look at the progress on the Scrivener document. Yesterday I made the decision not to do any additional writing sprints. I held myself back even though I really wanted to, and instead made some modifications to the characters. So you can see now that a little more information as I'm figuring out who these characters are is being added, and this will get fleshed out more as I write it. Now this isn't so important to me on the first draft, but on the second draft, having an image for each one of the main characters and having a great idea of who they are means that I can go back and as I edit my way through, I'll be able to modify scenes so that everybody's behaving as I expect them to behave. It doesn't have immediate payoff, but I think it's very worth doing. So I did a lot of that yesterday. I also created some new world building documents. So I added something I call the OFI, which is the Office of Fleet Intelligence, and will be very relevant to the plot. I worked with some of the weapons and did a few other things like that. As far as the plot itself, all I did was add a few little notes, and this is how I do that. So if you look at chapter 2, there's a scene where they're running into a Tigris vessel for the first time, and when I wrote this first draft on the fly, as you saw yesterday in that sprint, I didn't give a very good description of it. So I'm just putting a placeholder here so that when I edit, I'll know, give a little love to that Tigris vessel and make it very unique and descriptive because readers will love that. That's the kind of polish that'll be added in that second draft, which will happen once we're done. Same thing for down here. You'll see that I added a note about the shuttle. I've got to get the specs for how the shuttle works and its appearance so that this is a bit more seamless in that chapter. And then finally, I added a note to the Gone chapter, which has not been written yet, because yesterday I was watching Halo, and it had some scenes I thought were relevant. So there's a combat scene that I want to rewatch that I think will be very similar to what I'm writing in Gone and can serve as creative inspiration. So I just made myself a little note, and this will get deleted once I've written the Gone chapter. Now, my goal today is to finish at least 5 chapters, preferably 6 to 7. So you'll see me work through each one of these documents, and I'm going to click on them slowly in order so that you can see kind of the text that is here now. All this stuff is going to be gone, and in its place is going to be the new chapter that you'll see me write today. So that gives you some idea of a few tweaks I've made to the document. You can see where we're at as of right now. I haven't run any writing sprints yet. I will start doing that shortly, so by the time you see the update video at the end of this, probably 3 or 4 minutes down the road, you'll be able to see that I've added all the text to these. So I am midstream through today's workload. I have completed 2 sprints so far for a total of about 2,500 words. They're both good long sprints, and I got some serious words now, which is wonderful. But I still have 3 more sprints to run, and it is already 10:20. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to get back to it. So I'm about to dive in and start in on the next 3 sprints. Hopefully those will be done before lunchtime. I did take a moment to check my email. Thank you so much to all of you who reached out. I noticed that a few of you have suggested that I do a video around outlining. and or a video around editing. So the good news is that editing will be covered through this series of videos, and the whole last week I'll show you exactly how I'm editing. As far as outlining goes, one of the things that I've considered is outlining book 2 so that you can see how I am doing that. So that could happen through this process. So you may start seeing little tidbits here and there. If that sounds attractive to you, if you would like to see me outline book 2, please just reply to the emailing list email that you got and say, hey, Chris, it'd be cool if you did that, so that I'm aware that that is something you guys would like. Anyway, I'm going to dive back into the next sprint, and shortly you guys will see a summary of today's work. Here is the final recap for day 2. So I managed to belt out another 5,000 words, bringing the total to 10,337. So I'm still a little bit ahead of schedule, which is wonderful. I did notice today that it was much, much more challenging to produce my words, and that again is because I didn't start early. My later sprints were both shorter and produced less words per hour than the ones in the early morning. So for the rest of this challenge, I'm going to try to get my words done first thing. I'm going to make sure that I schedule around that. So if I'm doing any more podcasts, those will be later in the day so as not to break up my morning flow. But I'm very, very happy with my progress. More importantly, I'm having an absolute blast writing this book. This is some of my best work. It's a ton of fun to write science fiction. I think people that like sci-fi are really going to like this book. And I'm feeling really strong that I can get this done in the time frame I've allotted. So the next section of the video will go into the screen cap, and I'll show you what's different about that file. I have received even more emails, and I keep hearing over and over and over the same request. People want a video on outlining. They want to know how I created the outline that I showed in the Day Zero video. So what I think I'm going to do is plot out book 2, the sequel. It's called Void Wraith. And as I do that, I'm going to record that whole process in a series of short videos. So anybody who signed up to the mailing list, you'll automatically get that. If you have not signed up to the mailing list and you want to see those videos, please do so. You can do that at the link in the comments or back on my website at chrisfox.com. chrisfoxwrites.com/challenge. Can you tell that I'm tired? It's interesting. It is only 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been up since about 5 a.m., but because of the intense work I have done over the last 7 hours, I'm really tired. More so than if I'd spent, an entire 8-10 hour day doing field work or something. The mental strain is impressive in this gig, but I'm still floored that I get to do this full time, and I love what I'm doing. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show you the screencast of the Scrivener document at the end of day 2, and then it's on to day 3. So as you can see, still hovering around 3,300 words per hour. The total words for the project is 10,337. We have an estimated 17 hours to completion, and you can see the sprints that I ran today. So this is what I was talking about. First and second sprints, both over 1,000 words, doing great. Next 4 sprints were shorter and produced less words. So I still hit my goal, but definitely ran out of steam later in the day. I am happy that I hit those words. Let's take a look at the actual document and you can see what has changed. So we started with Gone being the first chapter that we worked on, and as you can see, it's a longer one. I moved on to Ambush, fleshed that out, finished up Ruins, did the chapter for Lena, I did a short chapter for Void Wraith, and then another short chapter for Report. So I have almost finished with Act 1, and I've added a couple of new chapters. So this one here, Ruins, had to be broken in 2, and of course I mentioned that yesterday canon chapter had to be added. So I'm seeing more of that. It is gradually expanding, and I'm also realizing that I've got kind of a plot tangle now that I need to get untangled. I'll talk about that a little bit in tomorrow's video, but I'm probably going to have to add a couple more chapters in this area and sort of, flesh out what happens next to make sure that I'm not having any big logical inconsistencies. I'm very happy with the work as it's going. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I am loving this book. Hopefully you are finding these videos helpful, and I would encourage you to reach out to me with requests. If you see something that you want to know more about that you see me do here, or just have a question in general, hit reply to any email you're getting from me or say something in the comments. I'm happy to sort of tailor this challenge to make it as useful as possible to you.